All right. All right. Awesome. Great day, everybody. Welcome to another incredible episode of Seeds of Abundance. I'm super fired up about our guest. I love what he puts out, and I love the topics that he's going to talk about because it's so profound. But first, as always, my good buddy Jim Gale. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, Matthew. And I am excited about hearing and listening and learning from Brandon as well today, especially considering my situation, Brandon. And I'll just share with you briefly where I'm at and what I'm doing. So I'm surrounded by a food forest. So this is a baby food forest. It's about 2.5, it'll be 3 years old in April. And we have declared that we are free about 3.5, 4 years ago. So we have built 10 homes without asking for permission. I very publicly do not pay property taxes or income taxes. And we had a government official come here about 15, 16 months ago, and he asked to see building permits. And I had a strategy for this individual or for this entity when they showed up. And I walked up to this fella and I turned my phone on and I introduced myself. I said, "Hello, my name is Jim Gale and I'm recording this conversation." And he said, "Hi, my name is Alexi." And I said, "Well, it's nice to meet you, Alexi, but how did you get permission to come on this land? Implied consent is not granted and it's posted." And I had a little bit of an idea that he might act kind of like a government authoritarian and say, "I'm from the government and I have the right to be here," which he did not say, by the way. Instead, he said, "I'm sorry, the gate was open, but I will leave if you want me to." And I said, "Well, before you leave, I'd like to show you what we're doing here. We are here to demonstrate solutions. We are here to be the stewards of the land and to share our abundance and serve our community." And he had this little clipboard with little check marks. And he said, I said, "That little clipboard that you have there represents the agency that allows and even subsidizes the use of poison. You will allow me to cut and kill everything as represented by every HOA community that you've approved up and down the road." And I said, "We have to do better. So we are here to invite you to do better, but I cannot comply with your mandates and your ways because you've lost your moral authority." And he got tears in his eyes and he said, "I will never bother you again." And they have not been back.
Wow. That's
So
beautiful.
with that in mind, I would love to hear, because you've been in this world now for a long time, studying it deeply. And I'd love to hear just your thoughts on what you do and what that interaction was all about.
Yeah, the when it comes to property, the entire history of America is about the protections of personal property. In fact, if you go back to a lot of case law and a lot of Supreme Court decisions back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, which are all still accessible very easily on the internet, by the way, you will see that they talk over and over and over and over and over and over that the purpose of the state is the organizing and protecting of the right of personal property. That's basically almost like the entire basis of everything that the entire judicial system was essentially based on, right? Now, obviously, that's been forgotten, and that's the beauty of, for the first couple of years, two and a half years, when I was doing all this, I didn't want to get into case law. I didn't want to read all the old cases. I thought they fucked all this up. Why would I want to go read about all their fuck ups? Here we are. They obviously fucked up. So why would I want to go read all their fuck ups? How is that beneficial, right? And I thought I could just, sword in hand, on my ivory white horse, I thought I could just smash through the front door like Simon Bolivar, and I thought I could just, push the horse's front legs up in the air with my rapier and say, viva whatever, and that it didn't work out so well, right? I was just filing lawsuits and going after government agencies, and I was just going fucking ballistic in every goddamn direction, right? And it didn't really work out so well. didn't really get any traction. So I went back to the drawing board. I said, okay, so everybody's talking about this case law stuff, and everybody's putting this case law stuff in there, and all the bar cards and all these attorneys are putting all this case law stuff in these cases. So I started studying the cases, and I started studying case law, and then I started to realize this is actually really, really freaking cool. I started to realize, like, for example, the exact case when the federal U.S. citizen category was born was the slaughterhouse cases of 1871. Is Jim still there?
Yeah, he's still here. You may have got a call, or I don't know, maybe poor internet signal.
Okay. So as I was going through this whole kind of historical, searching and going through all these cases, I started to see a lot of information, especially in the early years of our country, about personal property, the importance of personal property. And then I started finding things like the whole purpose of the state is the protections of personal property. And I thought that was pretty wild, pretty fascinating. And so, this whole personal property thing is something that is extremely intrinsic to our country. And the thing is that they couldn't get around it. They couldn't handle it, and they couldn't get around the Constitution, right? They tried and they tried and they tried for a long time. And if you look at a lot of the early years, all the way up to 1871, you'll see they just lost in the courts, just endlessly. It's just an endless death all the way from 1776 all the way up to 1871. And they were pretty brilliant. And their way of fixing this problem that took them over 100 years of failures. People think I'm, tenacious because I'm over here getting my ass handed to me for over a year, trying to get some traction in the courts. Imagine trying it for 100 years. That's the bankers and all the goofiness and all the stuff that was going on, and especially how pissed off everyone was that we had gotten our independence. So the solution that finally worked, and they finally figured it out, was they were going to create an entirely separate secondary country. And that entirely separate secondary country was going to look and be named and operate almost exactly the same as the country everyone had been used to. And what they did is they named this country United States. And if you go into the United States Code and you start looking up the definition of United States, it's a corporation. It's a corporate zone that is located in the District of Columbia. And I can do a screen share. Some of this has gotten a lot deeper. It's the same conversation we had a year and a half ago, but I have much better things to show you now because I'm having to prove all this in court. So it's the difficulty level of all of this has gone up by about 1,000x. But the awesomeness in which I've put it together now is also 1,000x. So it's all part of the game, right? So 4 USC 71 says permanent seat of government, all that part of the territory of the United States included within the present limits of the District of Columbia shall be the permanent seat of government of the United States, right? And if you go into a lot of different definitions of United States, you'll see USC definition of United States. You're going to see some very strange definitions, right? Like, for example, one of the things you'll see is this one here. The term United States in a geographic sense means the states and the District of Columbia. And you read that and you go, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? But then there's an entire website about making Washington, D.C. the 51st state. There's an entire fucking website from the government all about path to statehood. We're trying to make it a state, why it should be a state, what's going to happen to the national seat of government when it does become a state. So wait a second. So the USC says that in a geographic sense, it means the states and the District of Columbia. But you guys are very clear in many places that Washington, D.C. is not a state, and you can find information about that literally littered all over the entire internet, including many, many, many government websites, including an entire fucking website built exclusively trying to make Washington, D.C. a state. So, okay, so what so what the hell's going on here, right? So I did some digging, and I didn't have almost any of this information last time I talked to you guys, but if you go to Caja VUS, this is way back. I just put this in a court case, and the DOJ attorneys got fucking smoked. I thought maybe they'd find something, to combat this, because they use like all these advanced technologies like Westlaw and all this stuff, and they're the government, so they have a lot of resources and stuff that I don't have. They put 2 or 3 additional bar cards on this because they were so fucking flustered by it. They couldn't find anything to combat this. So I'm over here the last like 3 or 4 days. I've been over here with the biggest goddamn grin, ear to fucking ear, because I've got 4 DOJ attorneys on the fucking ropes, and I'm a guy who calls himself one stupid fuck on the internet. It's the greatest fucking feeling in the world. It's the greatest fucking feeling in the world.
I love it.
So this is the quote, Caja versus US right here. This is it, guys. I mean, this changes everything. I mean, you can use this for almost any purpose. Bills, cars, titles, property, taxes. I mean, this is like a sledgehammer to the face. So this is actually a court case involving some tribal stuff, which the tribal stuff is where the rabbit hole gets interesting. For example, you can have your own nation, and then when you're interfacing with the United States, you would call it a tribal nation, because that's the only thing that's the only term that they would know. That, like, you say, like, oh, I have my own nation, right? They're not really going to totally be able to interface with that. And that's fine too. If you don't want to interface with them, then you just say it's my own nation. It's not tribal. And then they can't even interface. But if you want to interface, you would just say it's a tribal nation. And then, oh, okay. And then that's through the Department of the Interior. And then they're going to look through Title 8 has some stuff on that, and some other titles. There's a whole title specifically for Native American and Indians. I believe it's United States Code. Let me just see here. USC 1101, Cornell. And then we go to the US Code, and we can see here I could have sworn there's a whole section just for Indians. Let me see.
Yeah, it was Indians. That's how they label it.
Oh, there it is. Title 25. So if you tell the federal government that you have a tribal land or it's a tribal nation. Now there's 2 types of tribal nations. There's a registered tribal nation, and then there's an unregistered tribal nation. Right? Unregistered is probably what you want to be. Registered means you're underneath a lot of rules, but then you're going to get benefits and money in exchange. So if you don't want that, then you would just be an unregistered tribal nation, but you'd be under Title 25 probably at that point, right? But getting back to this demonstration, this is the quote. They're talking about a specific statute, obviously. This statute is one of universal application within the territorial limits of the United States, and is not limited to those portions which are within the exclusive jurisdiction of the national government, such as the District of Columbia. Generally speaking, within any state of this union, the preservation of the peace and the protection of person and property are the functions of the state government. You see that?
Yep.
Within any, I'm going to reread it. Within any state of this union, the preservation of the peace and the protection of person and property are the functions of the state government, and are no part the primary duty, at least of the nation. Right. So if we stop right there, this is the issue that everyone's running into. Okay. Because what you don't realize is that state of California is a federal subcorporation. The actual real state that existed in 1894 got replaced with a federal fake version of the state. So you think that you're interfacing with the state government. You think that their duty is the protection of person and property because they are the state government. You're not dealing with the state government. You're dealing with the federal government, which is what he's talking about here, of the nation. When he says of the nation, he's talking about the federal government, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's the illusion. The illusion is that the state is federal and federal is federal, and neither one has anything to do with you if you're in one of the 48 states of the union. And you say to me, 48, why not 50? Because Hawaii and Alaska don't really fit in as states of the union. There's a whole rabbit hole on that I haven't completed yet. But I'm like 80% sure Alaska and Hawaii aren't included in when it says here functions of the state government. Okay. So you start to ask yourself, okay, so we've got this thing here for USC 71, all that part of the territory of the United States included within the present limits of the District of Columbia shall be the permanent seat of government of the United States. And then we got UCC 9-307, subsection H. This one's pretty clear. This also gives us additional information, right? Let's see here. Location of United States. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. Okay. So what happened was these DOJ attorneys tried to remove, I sued the Small Business Administration, the United States Small Business Administration in state court. And they used this to remove the case from state court to federal court, right? And we've been going back and forth. I wasn't too sure how to handle it. And this is how I hit them so hard that I've got 3 DOJ attorneys up against the ropes sweating, right? So all I did was go down to the term state court. What's the definition of the term state court? It includes the Superior Court of the District of Columbia, a court of a United States territory or insular possession, and a tribal court. This, when you go down this rabbit hole, this means federally registered tribal, by the way.
Yeah.
Not just if you're a tribe and you're just not registered, this wouldn't apply. This only applies to the problem with the whole Indian thing, and the Indians have been complaining forever that they're getting encroached and all this. It's because they're federally registered.
Yeah.
That's why. If they weren't federally registered, they wouldn't be having those issues. They also wouldn't be getting any government money either, though. So
yeah.
That's the quick secret on that. So the term includes the Superior Court of the District of Columbia, a court of a United States territory or insular possession. So you ask yourself, well, what's a United States territory or insular possession? U.S. territory. U.S. has several territories, right? And Wikipedia is not the best thing in the world, but this article is fucking unbelievably good. Like, holy shit. So I'm not a Wikipedia fan, guys, but this article specifically, until it gets changed or fucked with, is fucking awesome. So territories of the United States are subnational administrative divisions and dependent territories overseen by the federal government of what is called United States. It differs from the U.S. states and Indian reservations because they are not sovereign entities, right? And what are they? Things like there's 5 inhabited, there's 9 uninhabited places, and there's 2 claimed places. The 5 inhabited territories are American Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, United States Virgin Islands. Those are the U.S. territories. I mean, there's 9 uninhabited, but there's not going to be anybody there filing lawsuits. There's no courts. It's irrelevant. Yeah. These 5 inhabited ones are the only ones that matter. Then we have the U.S. insular possessions. What are the U.S. insular possessions? And again, Wiki does a great job on this one as well. Sorry to say. So it's an insular area in a U.S. associated jurisdiction that is not part of the states or the District of Columbia. And it's 14 U.S. territories, essentially. It's kind of almost the same term as U.S. territories. They kind of interlap. So you can see here American Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, right? And then as you go down, it gives you a whole timeline as to how all of this happened. And then it also gives you the court cases associated with it, the insular cases. And I think all of them were done in 1901. So it gives you a list of all of those here as well. I forget where, but I found them here. So So the thing is that even the United States Code tells you very clearly the United States is only the District of Columbia. And then the District of Columbia has basically possessions, but they aren't independent sovereign nations. So when the United States government comes to a state like California, Utah, Idaho, New York, they're actually in a foreign country legally, even within the confines of their own definitions. And what they try to do is they try to apply, and they don't even know they're doing this, they're trying to apply 4 USC 72. All offices attached to the seat of government shall be exercised in the District of Columbia and not elsewhere except as expressly provided by law. They're trying to get you to basically operate within the confines of the District of Columbia. That's what they're trying to do literally all the time. So they have their little check box, they have their little clipboard, they have all this. They're trying to figure out. And what's crazy about it is they don't even know this. The people who are there with these checklists, they don't even realize what they're doing. This is what they're trying to do without even knowing it. They're trying to exercise your property as though it has some sort of what's called casual nexus or nexus with an area called United States, which is only and exclusively the District of Columbia. And as we've already seen in Caja versus US, the state government has a responsibility for your property. The nation or federal government does not. And why is that? Because the federal government is a corporation. That's why.
Wow.
So what you're looking at, and then you say to yourself, well, Brandon, state of California. California has state courts. No, it doesn't. Because the thing is that if you look up how many constitutions are there for California, you have one before the 14th Amendment and you have one after the 14th Amendment, which makes perfect sense because the 14th Amendment and the Organic Act of 1871 is what caused this whole new government to be made. So what really happened? This one is the real one where your property rights are secured. This one is just a fucking corporation that's exercised in the District of Columbia called State of California. So you ask yourself, okay, so how does that work? Well, it's actually really simple. It's just a fucking business called State of California.
I could
That's
file
all it
a
is.
State of California, +1 and have another one.
Yeah, and the thing is that when you start realizing this game, I think one of the most hilarious things in the world is you can do the same shit.
Yeah.
You can create it. You could open up a business called State of California. You could open up 500 businesses called State of California. You can play the same game they're playing back at them and confuse them 10 times worse than how could you. Yeah, are you a resident of State of California? What do you mean? There's 500 of them here. Which one are you talking about? They've all got different EIN numbers. You know what I mean? You can just go fucking crazy, But if we go on the business directory for the business called State of California, we're going to find out where is this business called State of California located. Okay, they tell you right here where it's located. So let's go to Google and let's take a look at the property of State of California. California State Capitol. So here is for anyone who says they live in State of California, congratulations, this is where you live. Okay. Now, I would need to pull the actual property meets and bounds, but I mean, this looks like at first glance, without pulling the actual land patent or whatever it is that's underneath this, it looks like this green area is probably, the capital, whatever, right? So the way this works, if you go to 8 USC 1101 subsection A23, we're going to find the term naturalization, right? And this is literally how this all works. It's actually very simple. It seems very complicated, but when you realize how it works, it's very simple. The term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So what's happening is that you're telling them that you're in state of California. State of California is this box right here. It's a federal zone that is exercised in the District of Columbia for USC 72. So
Wow.
you are they're basically the whole system is designed through words and stuff to trick you into willingly naturalizing yourself into this zone, which is a federal zone. Basically, they haven't written to where anyone in the zone is essentially working for the government, because it's a government area with government workers. And then now that you've volunteered as a volunteer employee, a resident of this government zone, now they can exercise you and your property in the District of Columbia. So what's happening is that when you go through titling for your property, what they're doing is they're essentially, without you really knowing it, and honestly, without them even knowing it either, they're actually titling your property in this zone.
Wow.
So it's a little bit complicated. So is your property in the District of Columbia? Not necessarily. Your property is in a federal zone. It's called an enclave. Your property is actually a federal enclave. That property is then exercised in the District of Columbia.
Yeah.
And you have no state rights.
Now,
So
does
the
a
question
similar
becomes, go ahead.
thing happen in every state? Has a similar model?
Yes. Some states, like how many constitutions are there for
Florida.
Texas? Florida. 6. Now that's a little more. Now what does that mean? When you look up the definition of the word constitution, there's one constitution per state.
Yeah.
One state does not have 6 constitutions. That's not how this works.
Right.
So what you're looking at is 6 different states, all called Florida. There's 6 Floridas. How do you get into any of the Floridas? You confer the nationality of which Florida you want upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever, right? So people are mad at the government and stuff, but like really when you start to learn all this, it's incredible. You actually have infinite power. You literally have infinite power. Like they can't do a fucking thing at all ever in a trillion years if they had. So like I go up against 4 or 5 DOJ attorneys and I'm just like, you know, you could have me handcuffed, blindfolded, and ball gagged, and I'm going to start headbutting people. They're fucked. They don't stand a chance. You know what I mean? So the thing is it's like when you really start to understand this, you know, like for example, the definition of the word person, this is pretty wild. I know I went over this the last time I was on the show, right?
Yeah.
It's not really.
Keep going. This is awesome.
So the definition of the word person, it's not loading for some reason. The definition of the word person, I know it by heart in Title 8. It's an individual or an organization. And let's see if it comes up. An individual or an organization. That's not coming up, right? So you also got to realize this applies to trusts, partnerships, corporations, etc. So you know, the without getting too far into the whole, you know, all caps name and stuff, because that's going to take up a lot of time and we've only got 27 minutes left. But the term person means an individual or an organization, right? So keep in mind, you can create organizations. Those organizations are persons. It's like having, if you open up 500 trusts or corporations, it's like having 500 kids. And then just name all your kids the same name as you.
Yeah. Layers of liabilities.
Imagine 500 trusts called Jim Dale. Is that your name, Jim?
Gale, like the wind.
Gale. Imagine 500 corporations called Jim Gale.
Yeah.
Yes, hello. Is Jim Gale there? You just start laughing. You start laughing hysterically. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Thank you so much. I really needed that. I had a hard week. I'm sorry. Were you asking for Jim Gale? Yes. There's 501 of them here. Which one are you looking for? Because a corporation is a person. Yeah. If you have kids and you want to protect your kids, name your kid. You know, my mom named me Brandon Joe Williams. Okay, Open up 1,200 corporations called Brandon Joe Williams and get every single one a different EIN number. Yes, hello. Are you the parent for Brandon Joe Williams? CPS calls you and you just start laughing hysterically. Yeah, I have 1,200 kids named Brandon Joe Williams. Which one are you looking for?
Wow. I love
They're
it.
all persons. They're all your kids. They're legally your children. You can see that in 1 USC 8. Check this out. The words person, human being, child, and individual as including born alive infant. The words person, human being, child, and individual shall include every infant member of the species Homo sapiens who is born alive at any stage of development. Now look at this. What the hell does born alive mean? This is really creepy, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Born alive with respect to a member of the species Homo sapiens means the complete expulsion or extraction from his or her mother of that member at any stage of development who, after such expulsion or extraction, breathes or has a beating heart, pulsation of the umbilical cord, or definite movement of voluntary muscles, regardless of whether the umbilical cord has been cut and regardless of whether the expulsion or extraction occurs as a result of natural or induced labor, cesarean section, or induced abortion.
Wow.
And this is straight out of the United States Code. This is not freemanontheland.net.
Yeah.
You know, this is literally just straight up. I'm showing you the real deal here, guys. This is it, right? So what does that mean? I'm telling you, you start going down these rabbit holes. Every single corporation, every single trust, every single partnership is a person. And if you made them, they're your kids.
Yeah.
If you want, you just make 500 children and you name them all the same thing, the game's over. They can never figure it out. Which one are you talking about? Sir, I'm going to file a cease and desist order if you are not more clear about which Brandon Joe Williams you're looking for. There's 501 of them here. I don't have time to play these silly games. Why don't you get more organized? Call me back when you find out which one you want to speak to. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, sir. Click. You're never going to hear from them again. They can't figure it out. There's 500 of me, bro.
Yeah.
Which one are you trying to talk to? I'm not unwilling to talk to you. It's just, how the fuck am I who are you trying to talk to?
Yeah. I love it. So there's so many layers, as you know better than anybody, there's so many layers to this deception. My intent, Freedom's intent, is to elevate above all those layers and simply declare that I am here to steward the land. I'm here to live as a free man, and I will voluntarily reinvest the surplus of my energy and my labor to supporting the community. And that strategy has done very well for us. And the strategy itself is hard to penetrate because anybody who does, not only is the stuff you're presenting epically important and valid, but the actual act of service on film is also a tactic that cannot be ignored.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do anything more than what you've already done, which appears to be very successful, what I would do is you're just going to simply let everyone know that you are underneath the 1839 Constitution. I would get a very easy to print copy of it, like maybe this one, but I wouldn't print it off the internet like this. I'd probably put it into a Word document and make it shorter. I would try to get this printed on front and back paper, maybe on, 7 or 8 pieces of front and back paper, which is about, 15 or 16 pages, maybe at 10 or 11 or 12 font. And then what happens is that from that point forward, you any sort of naturalization, any sort of question as to where you live or where you're a resident or where you domicile or anything like that, The answer is going to be the 1838 Constitution version of California, because that's the oldest version I see here. But you can also go through and read each one of these constitutions, and you can figure out which one do you want to be in, right? I guarantee you it's not going to be this one, and I guarantee you it's not going to be this one. It's going to be one of these three. Because the 14th Amendment is when all this goofiness started, and the District of Columbia and United States and all that. So the 14th Amendment was 1871. So the way I look at it is anything after 1871 is probably pretty fucked. So as long as you're before 1871, you're fine. That's just a general rule, But the thing is that if you go through and read all three of these, you may like the 1861 version better. Maybe there was a reason why they wrote this second one. This one here says that it was a U.S. territory, and then this one here, there's some kind of succession that occurred. They wanted to withdraw Florida from the Union. So this one's really going to be cool. And then this one annulled the succession and ended slavery. So this one is attached to the Civil War, and then this one moved into the 14th Amendment. So actually, I probably wouldn't do this one either. I would do one of these two, actually. Because the problem with this time period is this is the time period they also redefined the word person to include legal fictions. It was right around 1855, right in there-ish, 1850 to 1865, right in there, is when they added the word person to include legal fictions and stuff, I believe. So you want to go, I would do this one, bro. Honestly, I would just do the 1838, honestly.
Okay. Beautiful.
And then,
now,
the secret to everything in America is titles, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to write up what's called a quitclaim deed. You've probably heard of those.
I quitclaimed my land into an irrevocable family trust.
Perfect. And where is that irrevocable family trust located?
Offshore.
Okay. So if you wanted something else, because there's a chance that wherever you naturalized it to offshore, there's a good chance that area is probably incorporated. It may not be, but you may want to look into that. But you could do another one of the same thing, and you can quitclaim the property back into the 1838 version of Florida.
Wow.
And you would include this constitution in the quitclaim as an attachment.
Wow. No shit. That's exciting.
If you wanted to go even farther, if you wanted to, because again, they use chaos to confuse us. Now imagine if you cut up your property into parcels and put all the different parcels in all different trusts and then naturalize the trusts all over the planet.
Man, yeah, they can spend their money. They'll never.
No, they can't do it. There's you could have 150 DOJ attorneys. They aren't going to do a fucking thing to something like that. Never going to happen. And then you can do a land patent. You've probably seen that. You can go on the BLM GLO lookup. I don't know if you guys ever had anybody show you that one. Did I show you that one last time?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
So then you can go to I just shared my screen. You have to approve it. BLM GLO lookup. And then we can go on to the Bureau of Land Management. And I believe Florida. What county are you in?
Osceola.
Let's go on down.
OSC.
Osceola. Let's go ahead and take a peek. Okay, good. We're just going to grab one of these randomly because I don't know if you care about putting your information on the internet. Do you care?
I don't really care because I'm very public about my Declaration of Freedom.
So let's go ahead and well, anyways, we'll just grab one of these randomly because they're all going to look they're all going to look the same. So Osceola, search patents. So we're just going to grab this first one. This is from 1885. This is in Tallahassee, and it gives the exact coordinates of this particular parcel of land. We're going to go ahead and click the image button, and this takes a moment, but this is going to blow your mind. So I would do a quitclaim into the 1838 version of Florida, I would attach the 1838 Constitution, and then I would get a certified copy, which you can get for about $5, of this document right here. This is the original handwritten presidential land patent for that particular parcel of property. This one here was signed by hand by Grover Cleveland. Now, what this will do when you write up that quitclaim deed and you do all that, it's going to literally legally make your property a completely sovereign nation, full blown. I'm not kidding. To where, like, if a police officer stepped foot on your property and you blew his entire skull off with a shotgun, not a fucking thing anybody could do about it.
Wow.
Now, I don't condone violence. I have a whole nation, and it's all based off peace. And I just say these things to create an effect, holy shit, in your mind, right?
Yeah.
So
we're with you. Our goal is to collaborate, to invite those who are causing problems to do better. That's our whole thing. Is we're not here to fight the existing system. We're here to live in peace and service, and also to live free.
Yeah, the problem that everyone is facing in a nutshell is just you don't realize it, but you're placing yourself, all your companies, all your assets, all your property in the District of Columbia. That's really the whole conversation in a sentence. And they don't know that. The people who are coming to see you, they don't know that. Yeah. You don't know that. The bank doesn't know that. The DMV people don't know that. No, it's just simply nobody knows that. That's the problem.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, the lack of understanding from everybody in the system just makes them all do their job as they're told.
Yeah, the District of Columbia is attempting to gain control over everything, and they've done a great job. They've created all the courts are from them, the DMV is through them, everything is pretty much through them. So, and the whole zip code system was created so the zip code system, when you use a zip code, the zip code part of it means District of Columbia or federal enclave. A zip code is a federal enclave identification number. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing as saying that property I just showed you, the green square. It's like saying you're basically in a small part of that green square. So if you say 123 Purple Monkey Lane, which is the one I always use for my address for the Pickletaria and the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition, I put that on all my documents. The IRS even gives me EIN numbers based off that information, by the way.
Wow.
And the reason why is because naturalization is the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. People think there's this like preset number of nations that you can choose from. That's completely false. That violates all international law on the law of nations and everything. Any group of individuals can give themselves a name. They are now a nation, and then you can now legally naturalize into that nation. And that's you start going down the rabbit hole of tribal nations. Like, for example, if you go on the Department of the Interior website, I'll do another screen share. They tell you straight up, Department of the Interior. And we go to the About section on the Department of the Interior. And we scroll down, and they tell you straight up what we do. The Department of the Interior plays a central role in how the United States stewards its public lands, increases environmental protections, pursues environmental justice, and honors our nation-to-nation relationship with tribes. So America, as people think, they think it's one country. That is the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard in my entire life. America is 49 countries.
Wow.
So the way it works is you take the 50 states that people think of, minus Alaska and Hawaii. So all the other remaining 48 are all independent sovereign nations, even to this day, even in the United States Code and the Code of Federal Regulations. To this day, Florida, California, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona. I can go on and on and on. As long as it's not Hawaii or Alaska, the other 48 are completely sovereign countries. And I literally just put Kaha versus US into a fucking case with 3 or 4 DOJ attorneys, and they said nothing about it. And I'm telling you right now, if there was any overturning of it or anything like through Westlaw that you plug that shit in and it says, oh no, that was overturned, blah, 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 they would have submitted all that shit into the case. You know what they did? You know what their defense to it was? They went on the Los Angeles Superior Court website and found some definition on the website and put that into the case. And I am going to I'm literally going to write a whole blurb just fucking with them when I respond to this thing. It's going to be awesome. Wow, man. Here we are. We've got Mr. Farrell and this guy and this guy and this guy. I'm going to pull up their bar card information. This guy's been practicing since blah, blah, blah. This guy's been practicing. And then you have this guy in California who calls himself one stupid fuck on the internet. He puts a U.S. Supreme Court case into this thing. And what do? They go and try to find a fucking definition off of a fucking website, bro. Like, it's the greatest fucking days of my life right now, the past few days. I'm telling you, right?
I just want to throw out real briefly. There's a friend named Viper online. He has sued 4 layers of Florida judges, from the lowest level local judge to the state top judge. And it's using similar things to what you're sharing here and saying they're all bullshit. It's all a lie. They're all a fraud. And he's kicking their asses.
Well, yeah, because the thing is that, you know, I've talked to a lot of bar cards and I'm not the problem with this whole area is these people are like professionals at playing dumb when they need to, right? Mm-hmm. So the issue becomes, do they really know about this stuff or do they not? And most people are very, very quick to assume that they do know. But the thing is, I'm telling you from personal experience, I'm not so sure, brother. I'm really, really honest to God. And I'm not trying to say that as a justification for their behavior. There is no justification for their behavior. I'm just saying, I think the true issue is not that everyone's evil. I think the true issue is just massive, monstrous, neck-snapping, bone-snapping, body-melting levels of ignorance.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I do too. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the good news. The good news is ignorance is a little easier to overcome than evil. Right? Because so that's our opportunity with your work, which is so relevant in today's world. It always has been, but wow, is it more relevant now with everything going on? I bet you're busy. And by the way, how can people support you? Do you get hired to help people through things?
Yeah, so everything I do is free. All my research is free. All my shows are free. And then I have a free course. It's 36 hours of material, and it's like 26 or 27 videos long currently. That one, the first one was released way back when I talked to you guys the first time before then. But I just released a version 2.0, which is a huge upgrade on August 20th of 2024. So it's been 5 or so months. We've gotten, you know, probably at least a couple 100,000 people moving on that course. Wow. And it's getting to be a big movement. You know, I've been on probably about 160 plus shows. And I'm just now getting back on the horse. I was on a 6-month hiatus. And so everything's free. And then if you would like to go to war with the banks, and when I say go to war, I mean full blown paint your face and get on the boat and leave town for a couple of years. That's pretty much at this point in time, really the only thing that I sell is warfare.
I love how you put it too that way.
Yeah, it's just if you want to sue a financial institution or a government agency, and you just want to go absolutely fucking ape shit, and you just want to go off to war, you know, and honestly, the chances of winning probably aren't even all that great, but you're just a crazy fuck. That's pretty much what I specialize in these days.
Outstanding.
So
I have a question. Being a Canadian, can I come into the into the United States of America, into a state, not a corporation of a state? Can I go into a state and then do the things you're talking about of creating other trusts in my name and naturalize into that state and naturalize my family into that state too? Like I can do all of these things.
If you create a business in America or a domestic business and you name that business your same name, then legally it's a U.S. citizen because that it's been born in the United States. So now at that point, what you're going to do is you're going to go and get that business, that person, an EIN number, which takes about 5 seconds. It's free. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fill out a DS-11 passport application form on behalf of that organization, which is a person. And you're going to get a passport for the organization of your name. And I've never seen anyone try this, but legally, that's exactly how you would do it. And then if they didn't approve your passport for your person, then I would sue the Department of State, because the thing is that there's absolutely nothing anywhere preventing something like that from occurring at all. In fact, I believe that the birth certificate opens up a business called a sole proprietorship. And I think that when you look on your birth certificate and it says date received by local health officer, I believe that's actually the birthday of the sole proprietorship business. And when you register to get a passport, it's not even in your own name at all. It's actually in the name of the business, which just has the same name as you. So a lot of the things that I'm starting to teach now and I'm starting to talk about is literally just doing the exact same thing to them that they do to us. They create a business in our name and they get us to identify with that business. Okay, you can fight against that and you can scream and you can yell, or just open up 500 more businesses of your name and get every single one a different EIN number. I think you can only get like 1 or 2 or 3 EIN numbers a day. They like cap it off. So it would take you like a year or something to get all those EINs issued, but why not? It's all free. I mean, if you don't hire anyone and you just open up a corporation of your name, I mean, I don't see, you could probably do that online, by yourself or something, or go down to like a local office and don't hire someone to do it for you. You don't need 500, even if you did like 20, then there'd be, because there's you, then there's the one that your birth certificate created. And then if you had 20 more, you'd have a total of 22 Brandon Joe Williams. That's pretty good. I mean, They call and they say, can I speak to Brandon Joe Williams? Or they come by, are you Brandon Joe Williams? And what the fuck are you talking about? Which one do you want?
Could they identify the one they want with a birth date?
Well, the birth date would be maybe, yeah. I mean, but the thing is that it still wouldn't be clear, because your birthday and the birthday of the sole proprietorship that they created is about 14, 15, 16 days after you were born. So it would require more of a conversation.
Yeah. You blow me away with your fucking knowledge of like all these different codes. The amount of information that you have consumed is mind-blowing.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
it's obsessive for sure.
Yeah, well, you gotta be, and you can tell the lawful mind that you have about you. This stuff it's fascinating to me, but it's a whole level more fascinating to you. And I love that you understand it, because I want to understand it from you. Like it's all about having experts around, right? The better the experts are that are in your circle, the better things that you can accomplish. And one of the things I wish to accomplish for myself and my family is how to understand breaking away from the corporations of the government and operate outside of that.
If you do my course, it covers everything. I mean, really. I mean, there's 4 sections in the course. The first section is nationality, taxation, citizenship. The second section is driving, traveling, titles, trusts, ownership, because that's all tied into all of that. And then the third section is finances and negotiable instruments. And then the fourth section is litigation.
Yeah.
And the litigation part is the only part that's not really complete. And the reason why is because it's an ongoing project. I mean, not to say that everything else is complete, because there's been some changes and stuff, but it's sort of like, it's a complete package for what it is at this time. Whereas with the litigation stuff, it's just not. It's just totally open-ended. I just release shit as I learn it, as we're going, and I just talk about cases. The litigation is the only part that in my head it's just completely still like the project is still like completely ongoing. It's not even, there is no, like, we don't even know when we're going to have it figured out. I mean, obviously we start winning cases. So
Yeah.
that may take another, God knows how long. So, that's just an ongoing research project with new information coming out all the time on a regular basis. And it's not by any means, but the things that I have learned, are set in stone. And then it's just like, we're just learning things in pieces and then putting those pieces into video form and then just building up the pieces until we win. I mean, that's really there's no other formula that's possible. So yeah, that's all I'm doing, really.
Do you know anything about the global family group
No.
and correcting? So it's helping people correct their status, and you may want to look at it. It's been coming up a lot for me through.
Is it a Canadian thing?
And I think it's actually like globally.
Oh, okay.
And it's been coming up through Anna von Reitz.
Okay.
Okay, and her group. And there's appears to be people getting access to their bonds through it, or something like that, because they're now receiving payments from this group.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of success at that, and my problem is a lot of groups post up a lot of weird shit sometimes to try to get more people into it. So I'm a bit careful. When I did my 1.0 course, I was really, really excited, and I throughout the whole course I'm talking about all these different people and all these different things, and Anna von Reitz and Chris Hauser and all these different people, and I list all these people and Russell J. Gould and all these people, and I'm just like dumping every single person on the table to try to just kind of give everyone access to literally everything everywhere so they can kind of figure out their own path. And then the 2.0 course, I went completely opposed to that, because I think that was not, it was fine. It's what I thought was the right thing at that time. But now there's very, very, very few people that I actually recommend. James C. Lovett, I recommend. Copper Moonshine Stills, Colonel Wilson, coppermoonshinestills.com. I recommend him for passport related things specifically. James C. Lovett is a wealth of information. There's my favorite guy actually is a guy named Jaleel Bey. And he is Moorish Lighthouse _official on Instagram. And he has books like this, Land of the Free, Home of the Slave. Boy, he is like the tippy top of top tier. He's just so good at piecing everything together, and he goes through the definitions, and he's very level-headed, and he's very calm. And he throws some humor in there sometimes. It's very similar to the way I do things. And he specializes in what's called adverse possession, which means an abandoned property, whether it be land, whether it be a building, whatever, moving into that property, fixing it up, and then filing documentation to become legal owner and actually get a property title and everything without paying anything, no mortgage, nothing. So he's basically, I call it sort of like a homestead thing. It's like homesteading.
Yeah.
That might be kind of cool for you guys if people are looking to kind of get their own little plot of land and they think they have to buy it. They actually don't, because you got to think, how did the government or whoever else own everything? It doesn't make sense that the federal government owns anything. They don't have any They don't have any ability to have. The only reason why the so-called government owns anything, or the banks so-called own anything, is because they've converted the title and location into a federal enclave. So the very basis of their ownership, the very basis of their claim of ownership is fraudulent. So what we're looking at is, we're looking at a country where in the 48 states, all property is literally just up for grabs, but there's this illusion over top of it that it's not, but it totally is. Every single piece of property I could steal people's property legally. I could just start taking over properties, and then legally, and then I can go to the sheriff's office and I can start I'm going to get killed in my sleep. My life is not going to last very much longer if I start doing that. But I'm just saying, I could easily just start taking swaths of buildings and just start taking over people's property legally. And there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. I can start clearing out apartment complexes, because the thing is that it's all the mortgages are all based on fraud, because there aren't federal enclaves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It blows my mind, the web of deception and how excellent it is.
Yeah.
It's so good, and the truth is out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when I started doing all this, I couldn't find like any information. And then obviously, like, without being egotistical, I think my information is the best, but also at the same time, you're talking to a guy who studied philosophy for 18 years professionally, and then also doesn't do anything else. No family, no wife, no girlfriend. I even quit my job because that was just too much bullshit to deal with. This is all I do all day, every day. I wake up to it. I eat thinking about it. I shit thinking about it. I probably think about it while I'm having sex, honestly. It's just one of those things where, how can you compete against somebody?
Yeah.
How can you have better information or compete against somebody who literally just does? Elon Musk sleeps on the floor of his office when he was building Tesla and SpaceX. Yeah. How do you compete with someone like that? Yeah, I mean, let's say he has half the intelligence of you. Okay. He sleeps on the fucking ground in the office. He doesn't even fucking go home. He doesn't shower. He doesn't date anybody. How in the fuck are you going to compete against that?
Yeah.
And that's sort of like me. I'm the guy who sleeps on the fucking ground. I don't leave. I don't want to leave. I don't have any interest in anything else. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to fucking go anywhere. I just want to do this. So it's just, I think that's why I have the best shit. And to me, it just makes sense. It's just numbers. It's just sheer numbers.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That is absolutely true. You can tell. And I've been around reading and learning about this stuff for 20 years now, through all the different things, all the different channels, all the different books, all the different stuff. It's come up so often. And I have looked and listened and learned from a lot of different people in and around this idea. And I personally also feel that your stuff is the best.
Thank you.
Because of just all the stuff I consumed, and then seeing how you put it all together. I'm a subscriber to your newsletter. I read all the things you put out. I did watch the Contract Killer course.
The first one or the second one?
The first one.
Okay.
Yeah. I watched the first one. And my sticking point was always around, I'm a Canadian, right? So the information is slightly different, being Canadian.
I've had a lot of reports that Canada is just a corporation that's a federal enclave of the United States. So
it is true.
The information that I have is that Canada already is. Now, the thing that you also got to think, Canada as the 51st state. Okay, so what about American Samoa? What about Guam? What about the Northern Mariana Islands? They call those states. Why aren't those the 51st state?
Yeah.
Because the illusion. That would break the illusion. See? So the thing is that Canada isn't the 51st state. There's a whole there's states that don't even have any people in them.
9
of them. So the thing is that, it's a bigger conversation. And I think you may not realize that you are in the same boat I'm in, brother.
I feel like I am, and I know that, and my uncertainty around my ability to communicate appropriately through it is what gives me that little bit of, the hesitation, the fear, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I understand
Right.
that.
And my intention is to keep learning about it and work with somebody like you to navigate through it.
Yeah.
Ultimately at that time when I'm ready to make that move and pull the trigger on it, that, you'd be the guy to go, hey, let's high five and let's get obsessed and do this together. See
Yeah.
what we can make happen.
Yeah.
Because it's exciting, and I want to be out from under it. And I believe that everybody should be open-minded to this and learn about it and then make the choice. Right.
Yeah. It's a lot easier than people think. People think it's so difficult and all this. It's really not. Like, for example, we used to do this long, convoluted land patent process and all this kind of stuff. And we used to go to the county recorder, and the county recorder would try to stop us, and we would try to sue the county recorder and all this kind of stuff. But nowadays it's so much easier because a quitclaim doesn't even need to be registered with the county recorder. So you just do a quitclaim and you plug everything in like what I said earlier in the show, and then it's done. You don't need to go to the county recorder or anything. You could, I guess. You don't necessarily need to.
Yeah.
And plus, you can go. We have special county recorders, like in Arizona and stuff like that, in different areas where they're a lot more open to. You can pretty much file anything you want. So there's also that option too. You just mail it to a different county recorder. So things are just getting easier and easier. We used to have trouble with the Department of State with the passport stuff, but then I made a bunch of adjustments in December, and it's been absolutely dead quiet ever since. We just get passports issued like the easiest fucking thing in the world.
And when you get those new passports issued, are they right now, I guess, are you getting them issued in your nation?
No, because I did mine. Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the answer to that question because I would need to. That's a good question, actually. I'm not sure. I guess I never thought of that. The EIN numbers for sure, we're getting them issued under my nation, but has anyone put my nation's information on a passport application? I don't know. I don't know if I would need to review my videos and see if I ever even mentioned something like that. Because typically we do rule-free delivery on a lot of those. We just write rule-free delivery. That's all we write, and then that's the address. But I'm trying to think if maybe. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
So when people are getting these new passports, let's say they're not in your nation, are they a true state passport, or are
No.
they?
No. So if you go down the history of all this, the states issued their own passports up until 1856. In 1856, all the passport issuing was centralized with the Department of State. The problem is then in 1871, you have the 14th Amendment, and then you have the new incorporated government. And so what happened is that so technically speaking, they were only issuing state passports up until 1871, and then I have some reports that way back in the day they actually had two check boxes right on the fucking passport. They had state citizen and they had U.S. citizen, and you just check the box, and nobody knew what that meant. If they did do that, that only lasted for maybe 40 or 50 years, and then after that, they started only issuing them for 14th Amendment U.S. citizens. Which, if you look at, I can show you. There's just one court case on that makes that very, very simple. People think they are U.S. citizens. They are most definitely not. I most definitely am not, nor have I ever been. I thought I was for most of my life. That was a big mistake. But if I show you this is my favorite. This is the shortest, fastest way to understand. There's a better case called the slaughterhouse cases, but this one I like because it's just a quick blurb. It's very, very impactful, and it explains the situation in the fastest and easiest way.
You got to share your screen again.
But the actual original creation of the U.S. citizen category comes from the slaughterhouse cases. So this is the Ellen R. Van Valkenburg versus Albert Brown. This is California Supreme Court, 1872. less than 1 year after the passing of the 14th Amendment. They say, or he says, no white person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction or born without those limits and subsequently naturalized under their laws owes the status of citizenship to the recent amendments to the federal Constitution, meaning the 14th and the 13th Amendment. The history and aim of the 14th Amendment is well known, and the purpose had in view in its adoption well understood. That purpose was to confer the status of citizenship upon a numerous class of persons domiciled within the limits of the United States who could not be brought within the operation of the naturalization laws because native born and whose birth, though native, had at the same time left them without the status of citizenship. These persons were not white persons, but were in the main persons of African descent who had been held in slavery in this country, or if having themselves never been held in slavery, were the native-born descendants of slaves. Prior to the adoption of the 14th Amendment, it was settled that neither slaves nor those who had been such, nor the descendants of these, though native and freeborn, were capable of becoming citizens of the United States. The 13th Amendment, though conferring the boon, which means like benefit, of freedom upon native-born persons of African blood, had yet left them under an insuperable bar, meaning like cannot be overcome, as to citizenship. And it was mainly to remedy this condition that the 14th Amendment was adopted. So the 13th Amendment gave them freedom, but they had no citizenship. The 14th Amendment gave them citizenship. If you're white, it has nothing to do with you. The 14th Amendment has nothing to do with you. What's the name of a 14th Amendment citizen? A U.S. citizen. What do they ask you before you get voter registration or before you do anything or before you get a driver's license or before you file your taxes or before you do literally fucking anything? Are you a U.S. citizen? What does everybody put on there? Yes. Now, the thing is that now if we go over to this one here, sorry, let me share the screen again. Check this out. I love showing people this. This is the best part, right? So I'm going to show you 18 USC 911. This is what I always fuck with people really good with this one. This is the best way to fuck with people. Whoever falsely and willfully represents himself to be a citizen of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years or both. So if anyone calls themselves a U.S. citizen and they are white, I call them a felon.
Wow. Holy shit.
White people cannot be U.S. citizens, and if you call yourself a U.S. citizen as a white man, you are a felon. You're an unprosecuted felon.
Unreal. Wow.
So I get asked, are you a U.S. citizen? And I laugh right in their face. I go, what? You're trying to get me to commit a felony here? This is enticement into felony. I think there's a code on that too. Are you trying to entice me into committing a felony here? Because yeah, that's not going to work, brother. Not going to work.
Do you carry resources with you as you travel in your car, as you go
Well, I have
out?
a passport. Yeah, a passport's all I have. That's all
Yeah.
I need. I have nothing else. Yeah.
And then do you have like documentation? So if anybody ever fucks with you in any way?
No, I'm a foreign official from a foreign country. I'm here on mission, and I have a U.S. passport. And you know they're gonna try to establish residency. They have to establish residency in order to write you tickets. I don't have a residency here, and if I give you an address of residency, I go to prison. And that's it. That's the whole conversation. I don't have a residency, and I'm what's called an official guest or foreign official of a foreign government. It's literally a foreign government by definition.
Yeah.
18 USC 11 definition of a foreign government. We can go over that too if you want. But you know, my nation fits that definition. The definition of foreign state from 8 USC 1101 subsection A14 fits perfectly. So I'm a foreign official, which is an actual term from Title 18, of a foreign government, which is an actual term from Title 18, and it's also a foreign state, which comes from Title 8. So I am an international diplomat. Literally, I am a diplomat. I'm what's called an ambassador at large. And if you start reading the diplomatic immunity guide that was issued by the Department of State, type in law enforcement guide to diplomat and consular immunity. You type that into Google, there'll be a PDF file straight from the Department of State. Click on that, and you can scroll down, and it's this really pretty, not very long pamphlet that describes there's two different subclasses. You have the consul and you have a diplomat. And then below each of those subclasses, you have subclasses within that subclass. So, for example, the highest level is the ambassador at large on the diplomat end. And you go down, and there's an appendix A in there, and it has, can this person be arrested? Can this person be detained? Can this person be handcuffed? No, no, no. And you can't go into my apartment. You can't touch me. You can't handcuff me. You can't detain me. It's illegal. And then if I wanted to prosecute, it'd be under 18 USC 112. I would prosecute under 18 USC 112, and that's the codes involving any sort of stopping me, questioning me, detaining me, anything like that. I have a diplomatic ambassador at large license plates on my car and my motorcycle. So, yeah, I've never been stopped. I've never been harassed. In fact, the only thing that ever happens is people become curious about it. And they want to talk about it. That's it. That's all that happens.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
It's gold, absolute gold, brother. I love the wisdom that you share. It's fascinating to me, as I said already, and it's always just these conversations, just learning. You know, I feel the head reverberating as my mind continues to be blown.
Yeah, my head's blown every day, man. This is like drugs to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're definitely not one stupid fuck.
Isn't that funny? I still get a kick out of it, dude. I
do all the time. Every time I tell people about it, you got to go read this guy's stuff. It's fucking hilarious. But it's all that, it's all done on purpose because you don't want the weak going through it. It's not for the weak.
Well, there's two reasons for it. That's one reason. The other reason is this kind of information can create militias, storming government buildings really, really, really fast. So I try to lighten the load and song and dance and gesture and all this stuff as a way of preventing people from getting so pissed off that they do some really crazy shit. That's really, that's really the other part of it too. Because plus you get so angry, you can't even, like, your mind shuts down. So you get so angry, you can't learn anything. Right. So it's also like combating people getting angry and doing crazy shit or shutting down to the point where they can't learn.
Yeah.
That's really,
it's heavy.
Yeah, it's really heavy. So
really
it's one of those things where that's kind of the other reason why I do it. So there's two reasons why I do it.
Like the veil has been perpetuated on us from before we're born, right?
Yeah.
We're all, before we even are present in this place, it's already entrenched in our life.
Yeah.
So it completely blindsides you and blows your paradigm apart when you start to hear it and get it. It just shatters everything. And I tie it into what they've been able to do with the medical world, right? And the god of the vaccine, so to speak, and how the whole foundation of that whole system has been manipulated in a way that fools us and serves them extremely effectively. And they've got the buy-in so strong of the general population that they keep everybody in line instead of the establishment having to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a similar thing. And it just fascinates me how they're all of these different areas, they've been successful in doing it. Like, it's the same playbook. They've done it in finance. They've done it in medicine. They've done it in education. They've done it in the citizenship, the government, right? And on and on.
Yep.
Like the web of deception. It makes me think of the book Wheelmen. It's the Lance Armstrong story,
Oh,
right? And this investigative journalist went hard, decades of digging and built the whole web of how they did what they did for so long, and who knew and who didn't, right? And so it's a fascinating book, and all the people close, like the main sponsors and like everybody had their idea, like that it was happening, but they all worked together to advance their own interest and ensure that the other stuff, they were able to kind of like turn a blind eye, right? Like all the people who are enforcing the laws, they don't, some of them may have a little bit of a clue, but most of them have no idea.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like similar in that regard. And it's extremely effective. They just build this facade around the thing, and then everybody goes along with it.
Yeah, the saddest thing about all of it is, like I said before, it's just even they don't have a clue. Nobody has a clue. I mean, they just don't have a clue, and they think they're doing the right thing.
Yes.
They think they're doing the right thing. They think that they are helping people. They think that they are, and it's just, we're just experiencing. My theory on all of this is that we need to have some sort of excitement and fun, and we need to have a die-hard story. So we subconsciously, as a race, allow the criminals to do their thing slowly over the course of many decades, or in this case, 150 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when things are damn near too bleak for anyone to do anything about it anymore, and we're looking at a cutoff point between being able to do anything and never being able to do anything again, we just kind of naturally jump into the excitement of this whole story. Because if you study how a story is written, like in Hollywood and books and all that, it's always that same. You starts off character development, problem gets worse, and then there's the point of no return, and then there's the resolution, and then there's the ending. And that's literally like that's how stories are written. It's literally,
is that what they call it?
It's the hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
So if every single story and video game and everything is written this way, and it's been this way for so long, is that part of our DNA as a culture, as a race, that we crave that, we need that, we desire that. So I don't look at, because you got to think, without the villain, you wouldn't have the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, if we didn't have any villains, we wouldn't have any stories. If you ask people, would you rather have villains and stories or no villains and no stories? It's kind of an interesting question, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, well, hold on a second, then is this all by design? I'm not saying fate. I'm just saying, do we naturally crave this? And that's why people are, quote, asleep.
Yeah.
And then once the greatest story can unleash itself, and once the greatest story can be told at the highest point and the most exciting point of this degradation that has occurred, all of a sudden everyone wakes up.
Yeah. Yeah. Feels like that could be happening.
Yeah.
There is a massive awakening. You and I both deal with it in our specific verticals, but things like, and I don't trust any politician, so let's just caveat all that. But having RFK, getting in as Secretary of HHS.
Yeah.
No one has given a fuck about who's been the Secretary of HHS. No one has been watching on television. You had everybody tuning in, not just in the United States, but all over the world.
Yeah.
Because of what it meant to the entrenched system.
Yeah.
And that is a show to me that there is, this awakening happening. Whether you like Trump, whether you don't like Trump, obviously I live in Canada. I could give a shit either way, and I don't trust politicians. Anyways, however, he has done a good job of also waking up a large portion of the population to corruption, to the manipulation, to all the things that are happening with him in this place.
I'll tell you right now, if he keeps going the way he's going for 4 years, we are in for a treat. I will say that much.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely concerns,
Yep.
about AI and digital currencies and stuff like that. But as long as those things don't occur, I think that if things continue to go the way they're going, it's going to be a very good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting as we go through this AI adoption and, whether we empower it to serve and work with us and the world at large, work with nature, work with everything, or we get lost along the way and it ends up being a tool for more successful enslavement.
Well, look what we do with the government, and you've already got your answer. That's what I'm scared of, right?
Yeah.
The government was ours, and it was our baby, and we created it to serve us, and then 200
Yeah.
years later, here we are. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the answer to the question, unless we
Yeah.
make some decisions, right? So
Yeah. Some serious ones real quickly. Well, man, fuck, as always, awesome. I got about 80 centimeters of snow coming to me over the next 4 days, starting tonight.
wow, okay.
So I don't
I
know
have
what
about
that.
80 centimeters of sunlight and 80-degree days in California.
Yeah,
So
enjoyed some big pickles by the beach.
why I'm here, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, man, always great talking to you. I really appreciate it. The knowledge is fucking dynamite. Super fascinating topic. I hope people that have watched this go to your website, onestupidfuck.com, because it's a killer. Take that contract killer course, sign up for your newsletter, just get the laughs and the knowledge that you have, because it's so worth it. And also, as I mentioned before, I'll try to get you on some other shows. So again, if anybody's watching this and wants to bring Brandon on, great guest, obviously controversial topics if you're willing to go get dangerous, so to speak. But definitely worth the conversations, and the value he brings is outstanding.
Yeah,
Any last words you want to say, Brandon?
all good. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I will just need a link to this show. I will share it with my audience. I'm sure it's already there. It's a live show, right?
Yeah, it's a live show, but I'll get you. I can either do a source file or a link to it, whatever you want. YouTube.
Oh wow, source file would be great. That'd be cool. I'll put it on my channel too.
Okay, dynamite. Awesome, brother.
Thank you, my friend.
Great to see you. Have an
too.
awesome evening.
You too. Bye bye.